Let's pick up on that story then. We are joined by the acting media liaison for the MEC, Anroux Marais, MEC for Police Oversight and Community Safety, Nefdt, joins us, as well as Dr. Llewellyn, MacMaster from the Cape Crime Crisis Coalition. Good evening to the both of you. I want to pick up on a point that Mariska was making there. Every month, every week, every weekend, there's some incident, some shooting of one kind or another. Generally, we tend to lift up in terms of media coverage because you can't cover everything, the ones where there are multiple victims involved. And even as far as those are concerned, just 2 weeks ago, around the 9th of July, there were 2 other incidents. Just a week before that, another incident. We started the year with incidents in and around areas of Marikana in Philippi East. What's going on? Let me start with you, the spokesperson for Kurt. Let me start with you. From your perspective, why do we keep seeing these mass shootings week in, week out?
Yeah, Tula Sizwe, I think the ongoing wave of mass shootings and killings is completely unacceptable. And while there is understandable frustration, it is equally important to acknowledge that the South African Police Service, municipal law enforcement agencies, including the Western Cape government's lead officers, are working around the clock to combat violent crime. And one of the most immediate priorities remains the removal of firearms in the hands of organized criminal groupings. And I think that is one of the leading contributors to these ongoing killings.
And Dr. MacMaster, just from your perspective, and I know it gets to a point where we are almost suffering from paralysis by analysis. We've analyzed this situation so many times, but context is always important. Why do we continue to see these mass killings?
Thank you, Tula Sizwe. I think it's quite right that you say, you know, this morning when I was approached for the first time to comment, I felt almost like, no, I don't want to. What more can we say that we have not said already? But it just, we get the picture that things are not going well in the Western Cape, and particularly on the Cape Flats. And as you said, spreading to places like Stellenbosch now. I think the situation has been allowed to escalate to the point that the crisis has become very, very deep. People, I think there's a feeling that we can get away with it, whether it's gang-related violence, whether it's the extortion killings. There's just a sense that it's okay. We will not be caught. The system has failed. The police are not equipped, despite everything that we hear, that they are not at the moment succeeding, even with the deployment of the army, to arrest the situation.
Kurt, there's an element that you spoke to in your opening remarks that has to do with the removal of firearms in these communities. I think we must get to a point where we're able to gauge, right, in terms of how many firearms have we been able to get off the streets, and also close those pathways of new firearms finding their way to the hands of those that will use them for illegal purposes. What's the conversation around that, cracking it as far as crime intelligence is concerned, knowing when to do targeted operations, but also being able to gauge the work that you are doing? Because we don't know if you confiscate 15 firearms, what does that do in relation to the number of firearms we believe or suspect may be available in these communities? We simply don't know. What's that conversation from your perspective?
Yeah, just to give the viewers an idea, yesterday when the MEC and Premier Winde visited Marikana in Philippi East, the acting provincial commissioner of police informed us that just in the last few weeks, more than 50 firearms were confiscated. And to share as well with our LEAP officers, since inception, in 2019, they've confiscated close to 1,000 firearms, and we receive daily reports of firearm confiscations across the province. These successes are encouraging, but they also highlight the problem of the many more firearms in the hands of dangerous criminals. And to achieve lasting results, I think we must move beyond responding to shootings after they happen. The real battle is against organized criminal syndicates that traffic illegal firearms, coordinate gang activity, and profit from the drug and firearm trade, as well as extortion. And I agree with you, this requires intelligence-driven policing, stronger detective capacity, specialized investigations, and close cooperation between SAPs, intelligence services, and prosecutors to stem the supply of firearms into the country at large.
Let me stick with you, Kurt, and ask you about the deployment of the SANDF. I remember a conversation, it may have been with you, Dr. MacMaster, or perhaps someone else, one of the other activists, that said the response that says boots on the ground is welcome in the sense that it will, perhaps give a sense of visibility and presence, but it's only partially addressing the issue without the other elements that you were talking to just now. What's your assessment? Several months, I can't do the count immediately now. Kurt, what's your assessment as a government, a provincial government, of how effective the deployment of the SANDF has been, or otherwise, in helping you curb this violence in these communities?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've arrived at the point where all and any help to fight crime is welcome. But from the onset, we warned that the deployment of the SANDF is not a silver bullet to the stubborn scourge of violent crime and murders. Although there are measurable successes when it comes to firearm confiscations, the arrest of suspects, Operation Prosper has so far not delivered to the expectation of the citizens who were calling for the deployment. We are ever optimistic that the next crime reporting quarter will indicate another decline in murders and other violent crimes, but that is little comfort to residents being subjected to these horrific killings on a daily basis.
And Dr. MacMaster, as a parting shot from you, you alluded to this other incident happening in Kayamandi, which is in Stellenbosch. What does that signal in terms of the crisis being arrested versus it actually escalating and perhaps getting out of control altogether?
Sorry, you just disappeared for a moment, so I missed a sentence at the beginning.
Not a problem. I'm asking about the spread. The latest incident, one of the 3 shooting incidents, was in Kayamandi, in Stellenbosch. Locate that for us within the broader crisis of gun violence in and around Western Cape communities. Does this signal that the situation is actually getting out of control, or what's happening? Is that a community that's partly also been affected all along by these incidents?
I think what we've seen over many years is that the gang, shall I say, ecosystem is continuously evolving, adapting, looking for new areas of operation. And that is what we are dealing with. When extortioners, for example, see that they get away in one area, they will explore new areas because I think it's easy money for them. They build on the fear of people. And the same with gangs, they are continuously expanding their areas of enterprise and so on. And that is therefore not surprising that they will target communities like Stellenbosch and other on the countryside, so to speak, rural areas, because that is the way they're doing business. And I think, once again, I can just bring in that we as Cape Crime Crisis Coalition are working with the police at the moment in co-designing strategies in the main gang stations. We started last Saturday in Menenberg. We are very happy that the station commander there has put up his hand and say, come start with us. Yeah. And that is what we as a Cape Crime Coalition are doing. We're not just criticizing the police. Right. We are mobilizing communities to work with police. Yeah. But what we are asking is that police take the communities with them in whatever plans they have. Otherwise, it's futile exercise.
Yeah, an all-of-society approach. I've got to thank you for that, Dr. Llewellyn, MacMaster of the Cape Crime Crisis Coalition. And of course, we were also joined by the acting media liaison for the MEC, Anroux Marais, who is MEC for Police Oversight and Community Safety. That was Kurt Nefdt also joining in as far as that conversation is concerned.